Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang saranang gacchami. So good evening, everyone. Um, Here at the Friends of the Dhamma and online. I see some old friends from around the world. Ah, it's nice to be here at Friends of the Dhamma. It's been quite a while. Um, been enjoying early summer out in White Salmon, and I felt kind of like we were teleported into an alternative reality today, coming into the Portland area, and gray and a little more than a summer rain. But it's been nice. When we had our break, I was sitting downstairs and just meditating silently, listening to the rain flow down the gutters and uh, just feeling like, yeah, it's an alternative reality. So, and the hall is particularly beautiful tonight. Maybe Evan can zoom out to show everyone online. But earlier today, there's 30 participants in a flower arranging sort of seminar. And everything is beautifully decorated for our gathering tonight and through the weekend. So thanks to all the people that participated, and Apple, who kind of led the seminar, came up from Abhayagiri, our home monastery in Redwood Valley, California. So that's beautiful to see and enjoy. So uh, thinking about a theme for reflection tonight, something that kind of came up was just this kind of ongoing koan I have sometimes, thinking about how in essence meditation is so simple and yet so hard. Um, and increasingly kind of with maybe the popularization or just the access to all kinds of meditative modalities or something, I meet lots of people who come up to me and say, "Oh, you're a Buddhist monk. So meditation." Yeah, I tried that once. Didn't work for me. And it's getting to the point where I meet more people who tried it once and it didn't work for them, or ex-meditators than I meet meditators. Um, and my heart sinks a little bit, but on some level, I kind of understand the challenge and the difficulty. Um, so quite often, like some of them have formed a whole identity around it. Like, yeah, that's for other people, but not for me, you know. But there's a whole segment of them that say, yeah, I should get back to it. Uh, I should try it again, you know. And I never tell them that they should, um, but I try to give them some gentle encouragement to give it another try, find some new instructions, give it another try. Uh, so, and then the second class of people I meet, of course, are the people that are meditators, and um, surprising enough, and this is the bulk of them are unhappy with their practice. It's so rare I meet a satisfied meditator. And I guess because I shave my head and I dress like this, people are always like exhibiting a little bit of guilt. Like, it's like, well, I don't know if I should admit, I just I'm like, I don't care what you do in your free time. I'm just having a friendly kind of conversation. And sometimes meditation comes up and it's, oh, do you meditate? Oh, how's your meditation? Or how much do you meditate? And everybody's always should. Yeah. Well, I should. Sometimes that's the first thing they say. It's like, oh, do you meditate? It's like a little bit. I should meditate more. Um, or uh, I try to meditate uh, once a day, once a week. Um, but it's so amazing because in some sense, meditation is so simple and it's nothing that is forced upon almost anyone, something that people sort of experiment with or pick up quite kind of willingly. And yet it's just rare I meet the satisfied meditator. Uh, so, and in the circles I run in, you would think if they're out there, I would. This is not something exclusive to people that are lay people. There's a lot of dissatisfied monks and nuns out there too, when it comes to their meditation practice. So, um, and it's almost like a little koan for me. It's like, it's so simple. What are we talking about? Attending to the body, watching your breath, go back, go forth, uh, or arousing the wish for goodwill for all beings, and just holding that sort of in conscious intention for some kind of period of time. Um, and I have a sense of an appreciation and sympathy and compassion for why these things are hard. But at the same time, it's like the essence of them, it's so simple. I mean, it's like the simplest thing you've ever been asked to do. And uh, and yet it's the hardest thing you've been asked to do. Recently, Ajahn Kovalo and Ajahn Nisipho were interviewing uh, Yuval Noah Harari. I think that's his name. Is it Nova Yuval Harari? No, Yuval Noah Harari on their YouTube channel. And he's a very well-known sort of intellectual and historian. And but he was on their YouTube channel because he's also uh, very open about his meditation life. And he was telling the story during the interview of how he came to meditation. I think he was studying at Oxford and dealing with some sort of stuff and looking for solutions for how to deal with his mind and life at the time. And he had a friend who was a Goenka meditator who kept pestering him to go do Goenka retreats. And he wasn't very inclined to do that. So he kept refusing him. And then at some point, I think he felt enough desperation that he decided to go do it. And he says, even to this day, like he's talks about probably the most important moment of his life was sitting down to meditate and given these simple instructions and then realizing how impossible it was just to be there to receive the experience of the breath. Uh, he'd never thought about it. It completely blew his mind uh, that it wasn't something he could do or do easily. Um, and the corollary is like, you're not in control of your mind. Uh, mhm. So it sort of depends on the person, but when I uh, encounter people that new people that are just casually curious about meditation. Uh, I often give them some encouragement if they demonstrate that they do have a sincere interest to try it out or something. Uh, and these days I just say, it's the art of relaxation. Try to see if you can make a commitment to yourself just for a month or so to sit once a day for 5 minutes and relax into stillness and just uh, enjoy inviting yourself into an uncomplicated, still uh, posture. Sometimes I'll mention the breath. Rarely I do, because I think that is such a kind of challenge for people when they first start meditating. Um, and and I said, don't push yourself. Just 5 to 10 minutes, and above all, see if you can find a way to just enjoy it. Like just enjoy the simplicity and the stillness of sitting undistracted. Uh, your mind's going to wander and add on, but just keep inviting yourself back to stillness. Uh, and if you manage to find to enjoy that, that would be great. But even if you manage to find some sort of benefit in that, then based on based on how much you enjoy it or value it, you can start to kind of grow it. Um, but above all, don't push yourself. Don't. It's this should that kind of populates the ranks of the I tried it. I used to meditate. Um, and and more just kind of questioning sort of a lot of the role of sort of striving and over identification that trips people up in their practice. Um, Put plainly, there's no simple one way the Buddha taught meditation. Um, if you look at the Pali Canon and study the Buddhist Suttas, uh, there's really a plethora of ways that he talks about sort of working with the mind. And these days I've been reflecting more and more just how much more attention there is to the whole of the path, the whole of kind of cultivating a skillful life. Um, and indeed sort of arousing sort of right effort in different ways and fostering as much serenity and insight as you can into your experience. So, and thinking about why it is that we struggle or why there is dissatisfaction, sometimes I kind of fall back on just analyzing things through these Buddhist templates. They're very useful kind of ways to analyze things. Um, and one of the most kind of primary is greed, hatred, delusion. So it's like, why don't I enjoy my meditation practice, or why don't I meditate, or why isn't my meditation the way I think it should be? Um, and kind of the short answer is greed, hatred, and delusion. Um, and greed's kind of a funny word, I think, as a translation for tanha or kama tanha in particular. I know some people struggle with that. Most people are not, like, it doesn't resonate with them. I don't feel like a greedy person, especially when I'm meditating. Like, when I sit down to meditate, how is it that greed is sabotaging my meditation? Um, and I think, there's a few reasons for that. I mean, mostly I think people maybe haven't studied kind of deeply or contemplated it deeply. And they think, this is the English word greed kind of conjures kind of really extreme forms of uh, uh, what do I want to say? Extreme forms of desire or something. Um, but even you take the more sort of moderate ones or something, most people are not having a bad meditation because they're sitting there sort of dreaming of a pint of ice cream when they get home or something. Um, but greed kind of relates to the very just sort of experience of everything we're doing, So like in relationship to sort of like how does greed provide an obstacle to sort of enjoying your meditation? Uh, a very standard way is these ideas and these longings that we have for our meditation experience. And it's like we want our body. We have greed. We have greed for a different bodily experience when we sit down to meditate most of the time. Um, and we have a form of greed for uh, different feelings than we're often feeling. The standard is, the whole thing that inspired us to meditate is we want to experience some pleasure. We want to experience some bliss. We want to feel good. Um, and and we identify that as meditation. Good meditation is a easeful, pleasant bodily experience, pleasant feelings. Bliss would be nice. Um, we have cravings and for certain sort of perceptual experience, and it's really focus in on the idea of it's our imaginings. I always talk about it's like the ideals that we kind of bring to this, um, and it really takes time. I have dim memories of when I started, and my sort of sense these days is uh, I had such crude understanding what meditation was. And despite all the books I was reading and the good talks and all the good kind of support, it really did take years to start to sort of identify sort of like all these various ways that I constructed these ideals of what it is that I thought I should be doing, what it is that I thought I should be feeling. Um, and certainly in the early stages, if it's just a curiosity, you pick up meditation and it doesn't match, it's easy to feel like, yeah, tried that. Not for me. Maybe other people. Maybe next life. Um, because it doesn't match, your experience doesn't match the ideal, but some of that is just through a fairly immature and not yet developed kind of understanding of what meditation really is and what meditation could be. Um, so one of the things that makes it easy to enjoy meditation is to foster a bit more non-greed, which would be kind of a more open, set aside the ideals, come back to the simplicity of it. What are the instructions? And what are the intents? Like, why do we meditate? Why meditate? The answer I like to come back to these days is it's a bit more formal way to operationalize right effort. The Buddha encourages us if we want to train our minds, um, sort of recognize what's coming up, make some choices. about what to encourage and what to resolve. And based on our knowledge of skillful and unskillful states, plant the seeds for skillful states to kind of blossom in the mind and unskillful states to wane. So meditation is just a strategy to operationalize right effort. Uh, and there's a million ways to do that. But I think the standard is like, and the way it's even presented is like this technique, that technique, sit for 1 hour in a funny posture on funny cushions with candles and incense. Um, Chant this mantra, that mantra. Um, the retreat we're doing at Merkin Monastery in May with 2 different kind of groups from the community here and in the gorge. One of the main themes was um, loving kindness meditation, and sometimes it astounds me kind of like how rigid a lot of the formulaic and rigid a lot of the instructions people have gotten um, for something as heartfelt and as beautiful as trying to grow your capacity to sort of generate goodwill for yourself and other beings, and just bask in that. Or just give space to kind of attend to that. So, and if we come back to sort of the fundamentals, like what are we trying to do here? You can get real kind of creative in how it is that you approach putting forth effort to sort of cultivate wholesome states of mind. So, but I think the standard is, we want a technique and we want it to work and we want it to kind of produce certain results. And then we want to just run that program, you know. So there's a lot of like, you buy books, you go on courses, you try this technique, you try that technique, and you're looking for the one that works with this idea. If I could just find that, maybe I need to kind of practice it a little bit until it really clicks. But then once it clicks, uh, I'll have what I want. All my problems will be solved. Life will be better. And, and that might not be untrue in some sort of way. But like that's kind of, I think, a little bit far from sort of like what Buddhist meditation is ideally, and what the Buddha is kind of pointing at. Um, and especially if it's something you've been engaged in for some time, and a certain faith in Buddha Dhamma Sangha, you've taken refuge, you've studied Dhamma, and you're making a long-term or lifelong commitment to this. You got to be prepared for the long haul in a way. So, and I'm kind of skeptical that you could boil it all down to some very simple instructions that are universally applicable or work for all people in all situations and all stages of their life and Dhamma practice. So, um, occasionally I meet people that seems true for, but again, like, is it true for everyone? Yeah. Is it universally applicable? It's like, they found something that works for them. Great. So if it was that easy, I think the Buddha would have said that and saved himself 45 years of diverse teachings. Uh, So greed kind of maps very nicely to, for people familiar with the five hindrances. I mean, greed, of course, maps really nicely to sort of the first of the hindrances, which is one of the uh, more formidable obstacles to sort of meditative peace and clarity. Um, Kamha tanha. But again, it's not always just about sensual objects out there in the world. It's very much about this body and this bodily kind of experience. So it can be as simple as just not uh, accepting and opening up to the bodily experience that's presenting itself as you establish your meditation and move through your meditation. So, so I always tell people, try to establish a supportive kind of posture and settle a little bit, and then just it's good enough. Make a determination. This is good enough to get going. Um, However it is we're going to execute our meditation strategy. The second part in this model, of course, would be hatred. So that could also be about the bodily experience. Uh, Feel too hot, you feel too cold, the body doesn't feel comfortable, the breath doesn't feel comfortable, the mind doesn't feel comfortable, uh, it won't settle down. Um, and these first two, sort of like, the first two of the hindrances um, are really kind of the formidable foes. I always reflect on the refrain that kind of comes in the Satipatthana sort of sutta. The Buddha in each section is kind of introducing the subjects. So like in the first section, it's all the subjects, the bodily kind of subjects of meditation, including the breath. And then at the end, there's this refrain. It's like, um, he cultivates mindfulness in or on these themes um, to the extent necessary to overcome covetousness and grief in regard to the world. Uh, which is really kind of a shorthand for the five hindrances. So covetousness is the first hindrance, grief the second. So greed, hatred. So it's like the whole part of the whole exercise in cultivating samma sati, right? Mindfulness. The aim of that is to help unwind and undermine sort of those mental afflictions, those hindrances um, that are robbing us from the joy, the serenity, and the insight and clarity of mind that kind of is our deeper reason to meditate. Oh. And then lastly is, this whole category of delusion. And some of it I already alluded to, but this is kind of a big one. Uh, Doubt, self-identity, you identify or you disidentify. I can do this, I can't do this. I should be doing this, I shouldn't be doing that. My meditation should be like this, it shouldn't be like that. Back to the shoulds again, you know. There's so many assumptions and so many ideas uh, about our meditation. And it really can just be kind of a minefield. And especially in the early stages, but even like if you've been meditating for years, I've at this point, I've known so many people that it worked for a while and then it didn't for some reason, you know. And some of it is they continually held on to certain assumptions or had certain images or ideals that they were very identified with, and they never attained those ideals, or it was never the way they expected it to be or wanted it to be or something. And that kind of sabotaged their relationship with their practice at some point. Mm. After years, even decades, that can kind of happen. Um, and I think, there's several ways to, work around this. Like, one, of course, is to have good teachers and good Kalyanamitta. Another one is a kind of lifelong and continual sort of study of Buddha Dhamma to keep kind of deepening your own kind of understanding, and also uh, reviewing and reflecting on your understanding, as you grow and sort of practice. Um, One is how you relate to sort of what the Buddha clearly identifies as good ideals and things that we should be working towards and striving in our practice. But like, I always say, you don't want to hold on to those with greed, hatred, or delusion, or with identity or something. Like, they're North Stars. There's something that we're kind of aiming for and trying to build the conditions to take us in that sort of direction. But uh, we do so without greed, hatred, and delusion, ideally. So, like, you're not getting what you expect or the results you expect or something. You don't uh, create some sort of negative identification around that. You sort of reflect on sort of, the causes and conditions for that are still not there. Or, also maybe it's a bit off, like the way I'm conceiving of it. You need to keep the mind sort of open. Um, and in some sense, I think it's good and healthy from time to time to just continually kind of question, sort of like, what is your approach to practice? Like, coming back to this language I was using before, mental cultivation is rooted in right effort. Any kind of meditation that we engage in, it's just a strategy to operationalize right effort. And I like thinking about it this way because you can be very creative. You don't necessarily need to have uh, just one tool to do the job, or one strategy. And that's especially true if you have, good teachers and guides that you can kind of check in with, but also if you really kind of understand the deeper aims of what we're trying to do, and also what we should be looking for in terms of results that we're kind of growing towards. So um, it's not written anywhere, as far as I know, in the Pali Canon that you need to sit for an hour, or that you need to sit in a particular posture, or that you need to do a particular meditation, um, or that you need to abandon the five hindrances 15 minutes into your meditation and attain the first jhana 1 hour in. And that once a year you should do a 10-day retreat. Um, or that you even need to do loving kindness meditation, although it's highly recommended. So, um, we need to figure out how to make this stuff work and enjoyable. So, I remember many years ago, like when I first ordained, um, I still have very crude ideas about the various forms of meditation. Um, I was trying to really get into developing my walking meditation, and this is a big part of the forest tradition in Thailand. And many of the great Thai forest masters uh, relied on walking meditation as one of their main activities, one of the main ways they put forth right effort. And they would spend many hours a day doing walking meditation. And in almost every forest monastery I ever visited, they try to provide a cabin for each monk. And next to the cabin is a dedicated place to do walking meditation. Um, and it's a very common sight when you go through the monastery to see monks walking back and forth and meditating, or sitting on their porch, or going back and forth between their cabin and their walking meditation path. And maybe doing that for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours a day. So not uncommon for them to do periods of 2 to 3 hour walking meditation. So I was kind of experimenting with this. Um, and and I kind of usually would do it for like a half hour, an hour. Why? Because I guess I just had this idea that you should do it for at least 30 minutes or 1 hour. Um, I'd have a whole afternoon to sort of practice meditation. And somehow I would divide it up into, I should sit for an hour, then I should walk for an hour, then I should sit for an hour, and I would walk for an hour. And then after a while, I decided, no, I should sit for an hour and a half, and then I should walk for an hour and a half. Again, ideals and just conceptions. But also when it came to walking meditation, I just heard all these ideas like, you should stand with your hands like this in front. Don't put them on your side. Don't put them behind you. Don't swing your arms. Your hands should be in front and clasped like this. Your walking meditation path should face east to west. Um, and you should not walk too fast and not walk too slow. And then, there's a couple different styles the monks would do it. Some would chant the 2-syllable mantra Buddho. Oh yeah, and one I heard early on is you can't do breathing meditation while you're walking. Like it's not suitable. So anyways, like, I receive all these kind of ideas. And I remember I went through this period where I was really trying to get more into enjoying and using this form of walking meditation. I would go out and I would be walking back and forth, and the longer I walked, the more tight and tense I was getting. It was, I don't know, it's hot and humid in Thailand, so the weather's not ideal for me, a boy from Portland. Um, but I would just be miserable. And the longer I was on my walking path, the more and more miserable I would get, and it's like my neck would just be tight, and my shoulders would be tight. I would sometimes even start getting a headache. And I think this is crazy. I walk all the time. I mean, I walk miles every day. I've been walking for a couple decades now. Um, I want to do this. I'm standing here in the middle of the forest, walking back and forth. It's about 50 feet long. Why in the hell do I feel so miserable? Um, and and this really went on for like weeks. Like this wasn't like just a bad day. Um, but I was really determined, like, sort of like, oh, all the great monks have, used this walking meditation thing, and I can't sit all day long anyways. I sit for so many hours. So I really want to figure out how to do this. And, at some point I just, out of sheer desperation, I just thought, you know what? I gotta throw away all these ideas that I got from here, there, and everywhere, and just come back to the basics, and figure out how to make this work for me. What is it I'm trying to do here? Uh, and for God's sake, relax. And so, then I just started kind of experimenting, and I remember feeling for a while, it's like, I got to teach myself to walk. You know, I have to relearn how to walk um, in a way that is skillful and mindful and enjoyable and something that I can do um, to nurture my practice. So, and so, yeah, from that time, then I started sort of experimenting and found different ways to use walking meditation even that I found really engaging and enjoyable. Um, and I think it was only kind of years later, I'd come across the story already, but it was only kind of years later that I kind of dawned on me that the Buddha doesn't tell you how to do walking meditation anywhere in the whole Pali Canon. And to my knowledge, um, the whole thing starts with the Buddha's doctor sort of needing to make too many medical visits to the monks because they're not healthy because they're sitting meditation all day long. And they have hemorrhoids and they have piles. And finally he goes to the Buddha and he says, it'd be good to encourage these guys to do a little walking. And so the Buddha, and this is kind of formalized language you find in the sutras, but then the Buddha sort of says, monks, I allow you to walk. I kid you not, that's what it says in the monk's discipline. Monks, I allow you to walk. It's actually kind of comical. And then he allows them a place to walk. So, and a whole bunch of rules get established so that the monks can build walking meditation paths and how they build them and how they can walk and use them. But he never tells them to do walking meditation. He never tells them how to do walking meditation. To my knowledge, it's not there. If you're watching this online or something and you know where it is, send it to me. I'd love to update my understanding. Um, and there really is like an infinite amount of ways to craft your meditation in a way that is fully skillful, enjoyable, and supportive of whatever your goals are. Um, and we should discover that. And it's not a one and done thing. You know, it's probably going to have to change over your life. There's different meditative tools for different seasons and different ages and health and where you are in your practice. And um, understand sort of the goals and the aims and stuff like this, then you can be creative. Um, I do encourage people to sit for 5 minutes, but other than that, throw away the clock. You know, find a period of time that works for you and that you enjoy, and let it grow from there, and let it grow with joy instead of grow out of a sense of duty, obligation, idealism, greed. So when Ajahn Jayasara last visited us, I think it was April last year, he came and visited Portland and the Hermitage, and we went up to Seattle, and um, that was all the time I had with him. But everywhere he went, I heard him saying, he said, you know what I'm telling people this year? Enjoy your Buddhist life. And I heard him say it sort of many different times in many different circumstances or something. And uh, at first I thought it was kind of corny, like enjoy your Buddhist life, but it grew on me. I always like the enjoy part, but the enjoy your Buddhist life. I'm not sure if that maybe it would make a good bumper sticker. Enjoy your Buddhist life. Um, it could be a bit of a koan though. Enjoy your Buddhist life. Are you enjoying your Buddhist life? Huh? Okay. Yeah, but it's definitely something to reflect on. you know. Uh, and the joyous mind is easily concentrated. So if that's what you're after, you got to figure out this joy bit. So, okay, so I'll leave that for your reflection tonight.